what's up? Yeah, some bias tape. So I was already preparing the fabric and I've ironed everything and I've cut everything and I've made some bias tape because today we're making a lazy top. And it's a very super quick and simple sew. And let's start with the center back seam. So I've cut it with the center back seam because it saved fabric, because the width was enough to cut the front and the back next to each other. So let's make a French seam and let's stitch it first with 1/4 inch 0.6 cm seam allowance with the wrong sides facing. So I'm finger pressing it open. You can also like press it with an iron, but this is linen and linen finger presses very well. So now I'm flipping it over so the right sides are facing. Whoop, there went the camera. And I'm pressing the edge with my fingers, giving it a quick pin. And now I'm sewing it again with 1 cm seam allowance, which is 3/8 of an inch. So let's make it straight, reverse well, snap. Let's press it open, and the back is complete. So, next up, the shoulder seams. Let's grab the front. So, again, with the wrong sides facing first, let's pin the front and the back together at the shoulders and give it a quick sew. 0.5 to 0.6 cm seam allowance, which is 1/4 inch. And the other one. Reverse, both at the beginning and the end. Let's press that open real quick. Now I want to flip it over again so the right sides are facing. We want to press the edge so it's nice and clean, give it a few pins, and sew it again with 1 cm 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. So there we go. Our neckline is now complete. So let's start with a stay stitch. I want to stitch all the way around the neck opening with a seam allowance of 1/4 inch, 0.5 to 0.6 cm. A little bit less might be better. So take it slow, and the stitch width or like size can be kind of a bit bigger. It's just to keep everything stable so the bias grain portions of the curves don't stretch out and get all like nasty. So she has been stabilized. So we want to face the whole neckline with bias tape. So I have it prepared. It's around 60 centimeters long, and I usually cut it to like 1 inch and 1/4, which is around like 3 cm. So I want to stitch it from the right side with 1/4 inch 0.6 cm seam allowance. I'm actually kind of a little bit next to the raw edge of the bodice because it's really fraying. So yeah, trying to avoid that. So I'm keeping a bit of a distance. Now we're coming back to the beginning. So you want to be very precise, and I'm using a pin to mark the exact point where I want to stop stitching, reverse, snip, and then let's trim the bias tape. And I want to connect mine in a straight line. You can also do it in a diagonal line, but I'm not really good at it. So I'm doing straight lines. So we want to fiddle kind of the neckline so it's all flat, so we can just get the bias tape there. And now let's pin it together and stitch it. And you want to be on a 90-degree angle. Reverse well and small stitch length. So finally trimming that tape, and I'm cutting it very short. You can also kind of trim more of that seam allowance there, but this is a very, very thin linen, so it's very easy to kind of like mold and fold and press with my fingers. So now comes a very important stitch. It's the understitch, and it's basically an edge stitch, and all the seam allowances are pointing towards the bias tape, and I'm making sure that it's all kind of out, and I'm edge stitching all the way around. I have this very nifty foot here for my machine. It's an industrial machine, so this is an edge stitching foot that gives you a perfect, like, I don't know, 1 or 2 millimeters distance, because these two little feet are not the same. So it's understitched, and now I'm coming from the inside of the garment, from the wrong side, and I'm I'm folding it in, so by half now, and a little bit of the good side, the right side, should kind of come too. So there's this tiny little border, and yeah, I'm going kind of from everywhere at the same time. I feel it's like the easiest to fold it, and I'm not using an iron. This linen is very easy to kind of shape, so I'm pinning it in place. And now I want to edge stitch it from the wrong side of the garment. So this will be visible from the right side, right? So you want to make sure that your machine has a nice stitch from the wrong side. Mine does. It looks almost exactly the same. That's the nice thing about the heavy-duty industrial sewing machines. They have a very steady stitch, and they don't vibrate and wobble. So all the way around, round. And we're coming back to where we started, which is the center back. I like to start and end at the center back, because then all the kind of construction meets at just like one point. And it doesn't distort too much when it kind of all ends there. So that looks nice, yay! I've been making so many necklines, I'm really good at it now. So next up, the sleeves. So we are going to do a French seam again, so we're pinning them wrong sides first. The first round, 1/4 inch, 0.6 cm. Now let's open that up, and in order to make the second seam, we need to snip into the seam allowance there to release the seam allowance, so it's possible to fold it over. You have to do it. Another snip there. Clean it up a bit. Make the edge really nice. So this is not straight. There's this little roof pointy top, so we want to deal with that. And it should be under the shoulder seam. So it's not really a pivot, but a bit of a pivot. You can kind of even slightly curve it over. Reverse that well, and the second seam was with 1 cm seam allowance, 3/8 of an inch. And if some of the fray comes through, snip it off. So now side seams with slits. In the front and the back together with the wrong sides facing, and pin them along the side seams. Now I also want to mark the position of the slit, and for me it's 10 cm, which is like 4 inches. So at this position, I want to mark the seam allowance for the first French seam, which is 0.5. It's the first little one, and then it's 1 cm down, 1 cm to the left. So we get a 45-degree little diagonal line. And you want to stitch that one too, but let's do that together. Have a look. So first we want to also pivot under the arm, and later also snip into that point, and really pivot at 0.5 cm, 1/4 inch. It feels weird, you're kind of pivoting over nothing. So we're coming to the slit moment. Now we pivot here, and now this little 1 cm down, 1 cm to the left. Snip, and then we cut under, kind of parallel to the little diagonal line. Finger press it open, and then we do the other side, flip it and reverse it. And we want to be quite particular about this point, so you want to really kind of get it out there. You can trim a little bit more around this little curve, and then we want to stitch it again with 1 cm seam allowance. Pivot again, and now at the little curve there, reverse well at the end. So we have our 2 little flaps, and we're on the inside of the garment. And first things first, I want to fold them in. We have 1.5 cm seam allowance, which is 5/8 of an inch. So we want to fold these first. You can measure, I can see, but you know. So first 5/8 of an inch, which is 1.5 cm, and then we can tuck the little pointy top bits in, so we get these like slightly diagonal finished tops. And then we want to fold it by half, so the actual double folded hem there is just 0.75, something like this, which is a little bit more than 1/4 of an inch, like 1/4 something. So we want to edge stitch from the wrong side all the way around in one go. So we come to the top bit there, pivot at the corner, then go to the side seam, try to kind of secure that area there, which is like a little fragile. Pivot again and back to the hem. Now that looks quite nice, and it's all kind of self-contained, which makes it really beautiful. So the final touches, of course I repeated it for the other side as well. And now, so people always complain a little bit under the arm, it's very like pulley and weird, and yes, that is just how it is. You can actually snip into it and hand stitch the edges a little bit if you kind of want to release the tension, but normally when I wear it, it kind of actually pulls itself back in shape. So 1.5 cm seam allowance there, but you can also fold it a little bit more. I kind of probably gave it a generous 1 cm plus 1 cm, 3/8 of an inch plus 3/8 of an inch, and it's a kind of double folded rolled hem, stitching it from the wrong side, and I'm kind of folding it as I go. It's pre-folded a little bit, but you can also fold as you go if you have an eye for the width. The 1 cm of the French seam gives a good indication actually of the width. And so now this is for the bodies, and yeah, it's basically just 2 straight seams, right, because of the slit. So you fold it in nicely. You can make it like a mitered corner if you want, but you can also just like roll it like this and double fold. And this is the back portion. So for the center back seam, I gave it a little snip into the French seam there at exactly 1 cm. So I have the ability to flip it to the other side to reduce the bulk a little bit. So the main seam allowance goes to the left, and the little snip off one goes to the right. Tricky. There's a lot of fray, so I'm trying to get it into the hem, so it's just there. Reverse, and that's it. So I wanted to make a very quick one for the front, but then actually the thread kind of like was gone, and then the camera, and I don't know. So it's all good now, we're done. Hooray! Yay. So guys, that's how quick it can be. Yay. Give a bit of a quick ironing here. It's linen. I mean, it's a bit of a lost cause. You iron it, and then 2 seconds later it just looks exactly the same. But it's fine though, I mean it's linen, it's signature. It's actually due to the editing, this was before I ironed it, but it's okay. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching. Please comment, please like, please subscribe. I want a lot more followers than this, and I have a new computer so I can really focus on better editing and better videos with better colors, I hope. Fingers crossed. Anyway, thank you so much for watching all the way through the end. You can find the pattern in my Etsy shop as always.
Hey guys, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and please comment if you liked my video. My channel definitely needs a bit of a boost, so please subscribe. Thank you guys, and see you next time. Bye.